It's time for Toolbox Tuesday. So thank you for coming out today. Toolbox Tuesday is our weekly webinar series where we try to put tools in your toolbox to help you pound out problems and sharpen your saw. This week we've got an exciting session. We are going to be covering moments of truth, and specifically on moments of truth, we're going to be covering first impressions. And it's been said that you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And our presenter tonight we're very lucky to have him. Our presenter is Distinguished Toastmaster Stephen Shaner. And Stephen is a past district governor. He is a past region advisor, and he is all around an awesome dude. And we're blessed to have him today. I'm going to turn it over to Stephen. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Dave. Appreciate that great introduction. It's wonderful to be here. It's a little on the cool side up here in the Duluth area. We actually had black ice on the roads yesterday, but looks like we're going to get 60 again later this week. So temperatures are fluctuating for us. Moments of Truth. It's a great program. Toastmasters developed this as a way for clubs to do a self-assessment to see how you're doing. As you know, Toastmasters for the last few years has really started to focus on this concept of quality clubs. We want all of our clubs to be quality in nature. We want to be doing quality things. We're there, all of us as club officers, we're there for one reason only, and that is to support our members, to be dedicated to those individuals in our club. And the Moments of Truth is a way to really measure how well we are doing that. Clubs that do the things that are in the Moments of Truth are successful, and they are quality clubs. And that's where we really want everybody to get to. I love doing the program within the club, and it's always amazing to me because a few of these points where I think we might be doing good, some of the people in the club may not give it that higher rating. So it's very educational to go through the Moments of Truth program with the club as well. It's a great questionnaire. You give it to all your club members, and you kind of let them rate how they think the club is doing. So it's good to get that feedback from everybody and not just sit there as a club officer and think everything is great and come to find out that some of the members may think differently in some of the areas of the Moments of Truth. So real high level, I want to cover a little bit about what Moments of Truth is, and then we'll get into that first section, which is first impressions. Again, it's a tool that allows us to focus on club quality. It is a self-assessment, it's an evaluation tool. You know, in Toastmasters, we love evaluations. We love getting feedback. So that's what this tool is all about. Each Moment of Truth represents an opportunity for a club to create a positive impression. And that's really what we want. Again, we want to be focused on those individuals in our club. And we can determine how well we're doing. Here are some things that we think really describe what a high quality club is all about. And think about, as I go through these, how you guys think you're doing as a club. Encourages and celebrates member achievement. It's a very important part of Toastmasters. We encourage and we celebrate something that is a very important part of the Toastmasters program. Supportive and fun environment. You've heard about that before. Professionally organized, meeting with variety. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. Officers are trained in all aspects of club quality. A member has access to a mentoring program. If your members don't have a mentor, make sure we're getting mentors out there for everybody. Even older members. I've been a Toastmaster for 15 years, and I have mentors. I have several mentors. So even us, did I say old? I almost said old Toastmaster. I don't want to do that. Us mature Toastmasters, how's that? Effective feedback is what we're all about. We do not give criticism. We don't even give constructive criticism. Remove that word from your vocabulary. It's a negative word. The root of criticism is critical. We do not want to be critical in this organization. So we give effective feedback. That means giving evaluations that help us grow. And that's what we love. We love getting that feedback. Members are motivated and have goals. And we as club officers need to know what those goals are for each of our members. If you go to your club and you ask everybody in your club why you joined, if you get 20 people in your club, you'll probably hear 20 different answers. So we're all here for different reasons, and it's important to club officers to know what those reasons are so that we can help our members achieve those goals. Moment of truth is basically anytime anyone comes in contact with any aspect of Toastmasters, that is a moment of truth, no matter what it is. If it's their first time visiting a meeting, if it's at a contest, a guest at a contest, a guest at a convention, a TLI, whatever it is, anytime that someone interacts with something in Toastmasters, that is a moment of truth. And it's important for us to make sure those moments of truth are positive. The moments of truth have 6 major categories, and those are first impressions, which is what we'll be talking about tonight. Second is membership orientation. The third is fellowship, variety, and communication. Program planning, meeting organization, membership strength, and achievement recognition. So those are the 6 major categories within the moments of truth. And each of these has 6 minor things that we're going to talk about. And again, we'll talk about first impressions. Before we do that, I'm going to tell a little story. Years and years ago, when I lived in Las Vegas, I was teaching one of my coworkers how to fly fish. In the Las Vegas area, there aren't too many places to go fly fishing. Yeah, there's Lake Mead, but that really wasn't what we were looking for. So we decided to take a trip over to Farmington, New Mexico. And Farmington, New Mexico is a river called the San Juan River. It's one of about 6 rivers in the U.S. that is designated as quality waters. What that means is when you go to these rivers that are quality waters, you're going to catch big fish, and you're going to catch a lot of them. I had never been there, but we decided to make the trip. We went over, and there's about a 3-mile section of the river from the dam down about 3 miles. And in that 3 miles, there's several fly fishing stores. So we got there, and we pulled into this first fly fishing store. The parking lot was empty, and we walked in, and we're kind of looking around, and finally the guy came over and he says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, first time here, what kind of flies would you recommend we use?" And the guy looked at me and he asked, "Well, are you going to buy them here?" I replied, "Well, I don't know. Depending on what you recommend, I may already have them, or I may buy the material to tie them, or yeah, I might buy the flies." And his reply was, "Well, if you don't buy them here, I'm not going to tell you." And what kind of first impression do you think this student of mine, this is one of his first times in a fly fishing store, and I had of this particular fly fishing store? Somebody raise their hand. Give me some feedback. What do you think the first impressions were? Anybody? You must have a shy group on with us tonight. Well, it was disappointing, somewhat frustrating, but again, there were other fly fishing stores in the area, so we went on down the road. So and he even asked me, he says, "So are all fly fishing stores like this?" I said, "Not in my experience." So we went down the road to a place called Abe's on the River. We walked in. This place was packed. The parking lot was packed. The store was packed. And we walked up and kind of got in line. We finally made it up to the counter, and I asked the same question. And I said, "This is our first time here. What kind of flies would you recommend?" And he said, "Well, it depends on where you're going to be fishing on the river." And then he pulled out a map of the river. He put it on the counter, and he drew a circle around a couple areas. He says, "These areas have been producing really well for fish." So I looked at my friend and said, "Where do you want to go?" And we pointed one out, and he says, "Okay, these flies are working real well in those areas." So we bought several of those flies each. And then I asked, "So do we set these up normal fly fishing style?" He goes, "No, we do things a little differently here." He turned around and he started opening packages of leader and tippet and the different things we would need to fish these particular flies. And I said, "Okay, we'll take those too." And it just very helpful, very friendly, helped us set everything up the way it needed to be. And the whole day on the river, as their guide boats went by, I remember one instance where one of their guide boats floated by and I was only a couple of feet away. And the guide looked at me and said, "Any luck yet?" I said, "Nope." And he reached on his vest and he handed me a fly and he said, "Here, try this one." And sure enough, that was a fly that got me my first fish that day. But what a first impression this place was. In fact, every single time I've gone back to that river, I've gone into this store, haven't even looked at the others. I've recommended it to friends. I've had friends go down there and stay at their hotel, eat at their restaurant, hire their guides. That's the power of a good first impression. I will be a lifelong customer of this place. In Toastmasters, it can be the same way. I remember the first time I went into a Toastmasters meeting. I had been looking for quite some time. I had first heard of Toastmasters in 1987. I was working as a professional magician in the Los Angeles area. And they hired me to go to their corporate headquarters and do a Christmas party. And I heard about Toastmasters. I was fascinated with the concept and the idea, but it took me, that was in 1987, it took me till 2000 to find a club that was convenient for my schedule. And that was here down in the Twin Cities. So, but I went in, and the things that impressed me about the club I went to was how friendly everybody was, how encouraging they were with each other, and it was just a very positive experience. And that's what got me into Toastmasters, and that's why I've stayed all these years. So let's talk about these first impressions a little bit. And please, at any time, if you have a question or you want to make a comment, raise your hand, let Dave know, and we'll get you involved in the conversation. So first, guests are greeted warmly and introduced to officers and members. So I'm going to ask a question. Who's responsible for membership in our organization or in our clubs?
I would think everyone is responsible for new members.
I'll come back to that in just a sec. Anybody else have a comment?
All right.
Hello, this is Ronald. I think for most, the VP of membership would be the primary resource to greet guests, and then a club president, and then basically everyone, right? In the end, everyone in the club is responsible, but I think those two would be in my mind the most prominent people to greet guests.
Okay. Good feedback. Anybody have any other comments?
Yeah, I would just second what's already been said. I don't really have anything different to add.
Okay, and I want to go ahead and continue here. I hear that response everybody a lot when I ask that question, who's responsible for membership in our clubs? And I hear the response, everyone. I have tried to find the email and the phone number for everyone, and I have not been able to locate that person. That's kind of said tongue in cheek. So generally, I then have them try it again. I'll ask the question, and the question is, who is responsible? And I have everybody say, I am. Okay. It's very easy to say everyone, and it kind of pushes it out to everybody else. No, we all are. We're all responsible for membership. The VP of membership is responsible for organizing our membership activities within the club, but all of us are responsible for membership in the club. As far as greeting guests, it's easy to think that, yes, the VP of membership's responsibility, but if at the beginning of a meeting, VP of membership might be Toastmaster that day, and he might be talking to people, getting last minute things taken care of for the meeting, he may not have the opportunity to actually go over and greet somebody coming through the door. So all of us should be willing to do that. If somebody comes in the door, they're a guest, any of us. And again, I'll say, I am responsible for that. And I will certainly do that, and I do that. Now, one of the clubs down there was my first club as Health Toasters. They actually have a greeter role. And the person that is the greeter for the week, that is their responsibility, is to make sure they greet guests, they sit with the guests, they answer questions for the guests, and that's what they do at the meeting. So there's an interesting concept too. But all of us are responsible for making sure that we're greeting those guests, and greeted warmly. Make sure they have information, they have a guest packet if you have that, answer any questions, kind of give them a quick overview of what's going to happen in the meeting. That's all stuff that they will appreciate. And I know I certainly appreciated that in my first time at a Toastmasters meeting. Guest book and name tags provided. I don't know very many clubs that provide name tags. You can decide if you think that's worthwhile or not, but certainly have a guest book for them to sign. It's a great way to get information, contact information, and later, if they show up once and they don't come back, but 6 months later you have an open house, there's a wonderful invitation opportunity for you to send an invitation to somebody that has been there, and maybe they didn't, stay that time, or it wasn't convenient, or they picked a different club, but you can still invite them back. So make sure you have a guest book, and you get, at the very least, an email. A phone number would be great too. those are great opportunities to go back. And that's something we do in our club all the time. Whenever we do an open house or we have a special event, we make sure to invite those people that have been guests but didn't stick around. You can pick up a guest book pretty reasonably just about anywhere. Toastmasters sells a very nice one. You can buy that online. Professionally arranged meeting room. How important is that? Oh, now I hear somebody. I have been to meetings where you arrive at the meeting and there is a kind of a generic agenda with blanks, and everybody kind of sits down, they get organized, and okay, who wants to be Toastmaster today? Would anybody like to give a speech? Who wants to be Table Topics Master? I do not believe that is a sign of a quality club, and I certainly don't think that's going to be, there's probably not going to be a professionally arranged meeting room at that point as well. But I think it's important that we are organized before the meeting starts. We have an agenda in place, and yes, there will be changes to the agenda. Things happen. It's one of those leadership skills we learn. We don't talk about much, but we learn how to adapt. You know, I've been scheduled to be Toastmaster for a meeting, and 5 minutes before the meeting's supposed to start, my boss calls, hey, I need this right now. So guess what? We adapt. We learn how to manage those situations. Sometimes people don't show up. We have weather issues like crazy in this part of the country. As you know, snowstorm comes through, people can't make it. So we do learn to adapt. But it's very important that we have a professionally arranged meeting room, something that is pleasant, it's ready to go. So when the guests walk in, if everything's ready to go, everybody has more time to greet those guests and answer those questions and get the information to them. So I think this is very important. And it's certainly important for this whole concept of first impressions. Convenient meeting location. When I first moved up here, I live in Superior, Wisconsin, and the technical college is 1 block from my house. And I'm in a different district than you guys are. I'm not even in the same region as you. But all of my clubs and all my Toastmasters experiences have been in Minnesota and that. So I joined a club in Duluth. I actually joined a couple of clubs in Duluth, but at one point I went out to the Toastmasters website and I looked to see if there were any clubs in Superior. And there was one meeting at the technical college, 1 block from my house. How much more convenient than that? And the website said they met on Wednesday nights. So I had a Wednesday night free one day and I walked down there and was looking for the meeting. Finally went to the information desk and they said, yeah, they moved their meetings to Monday.
Oh,
So I double checked the TI website and it said Wednesday. So it was a couple months later and I had a Monday free. So I walked down there and tried to find the Toastmasters Club and couldn't find them. I went to the information desk and, well, they're back on Wednesdays. Okay, so a few months later, I checked the website again and it said Wednesdays. I went to find them and they were meeting on Tuesdays now. So this was several months and they were moving around like crazy. And there were probably legitimate reasons for them to do that, but the TI website was not keeping up with where they were. Well, finally, it had been here a couple of years and the president of the club called me and said, we are disbanding this club. And we have a whole bunch of supplies. Would you like to take them for your club? I said, sure, that would be great. And she said, okay, our last meeting is next Wednesday. Can you be there? I said, sure. So I went over the next Wednesday and they weren't there. And they informed me, yeah, they had that meeting yesterday. So I caught up with them later and did get all that material, but it was a convenient meeting location, but I could never connect up with them. So make sure your meeting location is convenient. And yes, we do have some corporate clubs where we have security issues. We have some prison clubs. I'll be speaking at one of those next Monday morning. Believe me, there are some security issues there. Not the most convenient thing, but make it as convenient as you can. And if you're in a building and it's hard to find, have some signs, have some people, meet at the front door and show them the way. Just try and make it as convenient for people that you can. And that's a great way to have a first impression. I wasn't surprised that club disbanded. Nobody could find them, or at least I couldn't. Maybe it was just me. I don't know. Any comments? Convenient meeting location?
so Stephen, after all those years, you never did get out to see that club?
Never did. I finally, after they had already disbanded, I met up with the lady that had been president, and I did pick up those supplies. We took them over to one of the clubs in Duluth. Yeah, it was at least 2 years, and never did connect up with them.
Okay. That is the definition of a poor first impression. Actually, you never got to get a first impression.
I never did. I was just, and that's where people go to find out about you, is your website. So make sure your website is your that should be your truth. I mean, that's where people need to go to find out the truth about your club. And you're doing social media, it should be pointing to your website. That should be your source of truth for everything your club is doing. Mm-hmm. So, and make sure all that information is accurate on your website, your club website, and on the TI website. So keep that stuff up to date. Make it convenient. Make it easy for people to find you. If I had found them, I mean, like I said, as a block away, it was more convenient. I probably would have joined that club too, but it never happened. Give your guests the opportunity to address the club. And that's a simple thing to do. Beginning of the meeting, introduce the guest. Have the Toastmaster do it, or if your club president starts the meeting, just introduce them and ask them to stand and say a few words about themselves. Tell us about yourself. Why are you here? And it's an important first step for us as club members to kind of get a feel for what their goals might be and how we might be able to help them. And we can kind of gear our comments towards those goals and what it is they're looking for as we move through. Sometimes they arrive late. I've had that happen too. So Toastmaster can decide the best place to kind of take a break and make sure they get introduced. But we do want to make sure they get that opportunity to address the club. We tend to be a close-knit group of people, a family, if you will, within our clubs. And a new person, if they're not given that opportunity, they might feel like an outsider. So we want to make sure they're given that opportunity to be a part of that group, part of that family. And I think that is a great way to have a positive first impression. And the sixth point here, guests invited to join. Years ago, when I was an area governor, I attended a club and was sitting there before the meeting started, and I was having a chat with a young lady. We were having a nice conversation. And finally, I asked her, I said, how long have you been a Toastmaster? And she said, oh, I'm not. I said, really? I said, well, how long have you been coming as a guest? She said, about 3 months. And I asked her, I said, well, why haven't you joined? And her reply was, nobody asked me. So I immediately pulled out an application and said, here, fill this out. We'll get this taken care of right now. And she did. She wrote a check and she joined the club. We have an incredible product. Think about, October, this is the month of Toastmaster's birthday, 94 years. Okay, it's lasted that long because we have a product that works. Okay, we're in 146 countries, 143 countries. Because our product works. When I was Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, what some of you may know as a club growth director, speaking with CEOs and training managers and human resources managers, the feedback I would get from them, and it was great to hear it come from them because they would say things like, you have a product that works. It's cost effective. We cannot duplicate what you do at the price that you guys do it. And you've been doing it for years. So that's our product and it sells itself. And it's just a simple matter of just inviting them to join. And I don't even feel like that's really being a salesperson. At the end of the meeting, what did you think of the meeting? That gives them another opportunity to be a part of the club and express, what they saw, what they felt, what they heard, and then ask them, say, hey, we'd love to have you join our club, and get the benefits that we've received from this organization. It's just as simple as that. Invite them to join. You don't have to sell anything. This product really does sell itself. These 6 things, if we do them, and we do them well, we will be giving a good first impression. And like I gave my example at the beginning with the fly fishing, I never set foot again inside that first store. In fact, they finally went out of business after a while. But every single time I go back, I go to Abe's. And It is because of that first impression. And I know all of you can think of times outside of Toastmasters and inside of Toastmasters where you've had positive first impressions and you've had negative ones. And you know how you've reacted or responded to those things. So these are the 6 first impression points. Very important. I think these, if you're doing these 6 well, you're off to a good start. You're going to get people in the door, and you're going to get members to join. When we start looking at those other categories, is when we start looking at how we, meet their needs and help them achieve their goals. So I'm going to open it up now for any questions on any of these, any concerns, anything that. Any challenges that you had, if you have ideas on things that your club's doing successfully, the rest of us would love to hear them. So Dave, I'll turn control over to you and we can do a little Q&A here.
All right. So we're open for question and answer. You can unmute your microphone and ask a question. If you find you can't unmute your microphone, raise your hand and I can help. Or if you don't feel like speaking up with a question, you can always type your question in using the Q&A button located on your screen. And we can get right into answering some questions. Stephen, I had one, and I'll ask mine first, and that'll give some people an opportunity to jump in. The last point you made, the guests invited to join. Is there a danger of pressuring people, of putting too much pressure on people to join? And if they're not quite ready to make that jump yet, is that okay? And how many times can they visit a club without joining? What's your thought on that?
Great questions. I don't think so. Again, if you just keep it simple and you just make it a simple invitation. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We're glad you were here. Please consider joining us. We're a fun group. We have fun. We learn. Hey, just keep it simple. That is not threatening in any way, shape, or form. You've probably given them some kind of guest packet that's got an application in it. And certainly say, hey, if you have any questions about the application process, let us know. And keep it at that. Now, you don't want to have all 26 of your members go up and pressure them to join, but if, do it in the meeting, and then afterwards, VP of membership can certainly walk over and say, hey, do you have any questions? Or anybody else in their absence. If you're a VP of membership, by the way, I suggest you get a committee. Have a couple people that can help you out. So when you are absent, somebody can step in for you. And not only that, but come election time next year, you get a couple of people that would be prime candidates to step into your role. So, and it's true of all of the officer roles. Get a committee. If you got enough people in your club, get a couple people helping you out. As far as, what was the second part of your question? I forgot it already.
Can you overpressure or no, I asked how many times do you think people should be able to visit without?
I've seen it done different ways. The clubs I've been involved with really didn't have any, strict guidelines for that. They usually say, come visit us anytime you want. And we encourage them to join when they do. I've seen some clubs where they have in their bylaws is they can come as a guest 3 times. After that, they have to join. So every club is different. So whatever you guys are comfortable with, but just make sure that they know. So, yeah, we allow you to come as a guest 3 times, but if you're going to come more than that, then you need to join the club. Or, if you want to just say, hey, come as many times as you want to, eventually you'll get them. So,
sure. I think if they're coming and visiting, unless you're giving them speaking roles and they're getting the benefit for free.
Yeah, if they're doing speaking roles, they need to be a member. And really, if they're doing any of the roles, I think they should be a member. But if they want to come visit, I think that's okay. Play it by ear with the person too. I mean, you get somebody that's really, introverted and they're a little shy about doing this kind of stuff. Work with them. Get another point, but please don't let them sit there for months and not invite them to join. So make the invitation, then they can decide.
Yeah. You don't want them to say, I went to this club and I never knew how to join.
Exactly.
And if they would have asked, I would have liked to have joined, but I just couldn't figure it out.
Like, wow, you could have your DTM by now. No, just kidding.
There you go. There you go. Any questions? Well, Stephen, maybe you covered everything very well here. I'm not. Oh,
And these
I've
have
got a
been,
hand.
again,
Carl?
these have been my experiences, but I'm sure others out there have experiences as well, and we can learn from those. So.
Sure. Carl, I'm going to unmute you. You should be free to talk.
Hi. I'm relatively new to Toastmasters, so I'm just sort of figuring out how things work. And the club that I'm a part of is very small. And so I guess my question, and maybe you're going to talk about this later, I don't know, but is how do you get people in the door to begin with? One of the what invited me to talk with her about that a few weeks ago, and we kind of just hemmed and hawed a little bit. Beside, of course, word of mouth, but is there anything else that, any strategies that are simple and inexpensive that you can recommend for just getting people in the door to begin with?
First of all, let me say, if you're a small club, don't try and do it all. We want to see if a guest comes to your meeting, if you've only got 6 people there, you want to see 6 people doing one thing well. You don't want to see 3 of those people doing 3 different roles and not doing them well. So if it means you don't have an odd counter or a grammarian one week, don't do it. Make sure everybody is doing one thing and they're doing it in a quality way. That's what you want people to see, and that's what you want even your club members to experience as well. And I know that I've been in clubs where I've had 2 roles in a meeting, and guess what? I'm trying to fill out this evaluation, and I'm also out counter, and I'm missing stuff. So, and I'm not going to do a good job on either role if I'm trying to do it. So that's one thing. There's all kinds of things you can do out there. I recommend a book. You can go to the Toastmasters site, and you can download it as PDFs called "Let the World Know," and it's got all kinds of tips in there. You can do press releases, how to go on TV and promote your club. There's all kinds of things there. Social media, there's websites. Do all of this stuff. You have a website, use it. Keep it up to date. Make sure it's your source of truth. Social media, use them. But you are right. The number one best way to get new members in your club is word of mouth. I would suggest having a membership building contest of some kind 3 times a year. Toastmasters has a formal program 3 times a year. And the way we do it in our club is we just put together a little spreadsheet, and we put all of our club members on the left and then the dates for 2 months. Okay. And then if you bring a guest, you get 5 points. Okay. If the guest returns, you get 2 points. If the guest joins, you get 5 points. So you're tallying up these points. If you give a speech, it's 2 points. If you do another role, it's a point. So we're giving points for people participating in the club as well. And at the end of the 2 months, whoever has the most points, we'll give them, a Toastmasters bag or Toastmasters mug or something to get a nice prize out of it. During that 2 months, you can have an open house. But the idea is give a nice prize, give a little incentive, and people start bringing guests. And it's amazing. We continue in our club, we continue to get new members that way. And we do it, like I said, 3 times a year in conjunction with the formal Toastmasters programs. Open houses are a great way. We had the mayor of Duluth write a proclamation declaring October 2018 as Toastmasters month in the city of Duluth in honor of our 94th birthday. And when it's presented, you have an open house and you use that publicity. If somebody accomplishes wins a speech contest in your club, get a press release out there. So there's all kinds of ways you can get the word about the club out. But I highly recommend that book. If you go out, there's all kinds of resources out there on the old District 6 website. I'm sure we'll be getting those on the District 106 website on how to promote your club. But again, word of mouth, and no is not permanent. Okay, look at me. I heard about Toastmasters in '87. I didn't join until 2000. No is never permanent. People's lives change. How many times have we seen it where, nope, I'm not interested, and then 3 months later they get a new job, and guess what? They're doing training and they're doing presentations all the time. They need Toastmasters. So no is never permanent. If they said no 2 weeks ago, that doesn't mean it's no today. And I'm not saying you should, bombard people, but people's lives change, and look for those opportunities. If they get a new job, they could very well need Toastmasters now. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Stephen, we have a question that came in through the webinar chat.
Okay.
And it says, are you going to comment about what to do with the results of Moments of Truth? And this would be if you're running a Moments of Truth presentation in your club, and we didn't talk about that, but
we didn't, but I'll go ahead and talk about that now. There is a questionnaire. If you download the Moments of Truth program as part of the Better Club series, you can download the program. And one of the things in there is, I think it's actually called a handout. But what it does is it takes all of these 36 points and it allows your club members to rate the club on all of these. And then what I have done in the past is I've actually gone into Excel and created a spreadsheet, and I got all the questions, and then I don't have the names of the people because I don't know who they are, but I say we had 11 people reply. I would have 11 columns, and I would put their scores, and then I would average those. So that gives me an average, and then I would look at, okay, how many of these were we, the rating scale is 1 to 5. How many were we above 4? Okay, those are things the club members think we're doing well. Let's continue to do those. Okay, then, so I would highlight those in green. Okay, then I would look at anything that is 3 and above. Okay, and those I would highlight in yellow. Okay, we're average there. Maybe there's some opportunities to make some improvements there. Then anything 3 and above, actually anything 3 or below in that range, I would mark as red. Those are opportunities. And you may have, of the 36 points, you may have half of them that are red. Okay, please do not try and tackle all of those at one time. Okay, as a group, decide on 1, 2, or 3 of those that here's what we're going to focus on right now. Okay, and work on those and bring those up so that they're green next time. And please continue to do those other things that you do well. You don't want to have those drop, but just pick 2 or 3 things to work on. The things that you think you're going to get, the most out of getting new members, keeping members. Retention is such an issue for all of us in all of our clubs. So retention is important. So look at those things. And then 6 months later, do the Moments of Truth program again. See where you're at, and then pick 1, 2, or 3 more things to work on at that point. So please don't try and tackle all of these at once. Figure out what you're doing well, look for some things you need to improve on, and pick 2 or 3 as a group and say, here's what we're going to focus on, for the next 3 months, 6 months, next year, whatever it is, and then work on bringing those up. And if you do that, in a very short period of time, you'll start to see improvement in the numbers of the club, what's going on in the club, people participating, retention will be better, you'll be getting new members. And again, word of mouth is great, get the people in, make sure you've got a quality product to show those guests as they're coming in. Great question, thank you for that.
Stephen, I really enjoyed when you mentioned if you don't have a lot of people in the room, that it's okay to eliminate a role.
Yes.
And one thing that I find always distracting, if I go to visit a club and you have someone who says, well, I'm the general evaluator and now I'm going to introduce the Toastmaster, which is me, and now I'm the speech evaluator, or even worse, if they spin around to indicate that they are changing roles. And I think it's just better to have to drop some of that and have them cover.
It is. And we've all seen it where we've been trying to juggle all these different things and it doesn't work well. So
right.
Eliminate some roles for the meeting. Hopefully we'll have more people there next week. You can do that. But again, have people doing one thing in a quality way. That's what you want guests and your members to see as well. When I first came up here, I visited a couple clubs. One was 27 members, but there was one that was 6 members and they were struggling. So I thought, I'm going to join that club and kind of help them out. It was like the second or third meeting I went to. There were 5 of us there. I was scheduled to be table topics master that day, and there was one guy who was going to give a speech. So they introduced the speaker. We had 3 guests, by the way. 3 guests showed up that day, and they introduced the speaker. He came up and he says, okay, I need to set up. So he boots up his laptop, he puts up a projector, and he's turning it on. He spent 20 minutes trying to get his laptop and the projector to work and was unsuccessful. And then he says, well, I'll save this speech for another day. I'll go ahead and do some table topics now. And then he started doing table topics. You think we saw those 3 guests again?
Mm.
we didn't. So again, we want to present a quality product. So we want to avoid those types of things.
Stephen, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but you've covered a lot of information here. If there was one thing that you would like to make sure that everyone takes out of this presentation, what is that one thing that, you know, if I could only remember one thing about this, what would that be that I need to know about first impressions?
I'm struggling between two, so
maybe it could be a thing and a half.
All right, we'll do that then. First and foremost, always remember that we are here for the member. I mentioned this in my last presentation. Our founder, Ralph Smedley, once said that he knew of no other organization like Toastmasters that was dedicated to the individual. Everything that we have, everything that we do in this organization is dedicated to the individual. Look at our programs. Look at the evaluations that we do. Everything is dedicated to the individual. I think that's the thing that we at club officers always need to remember. If I go to our international president and ask her, I guarantee you she's going to say, I'm here for the members. Okay. I guarantee you that our district trio is here. The things they're doing is for the member. And we as club officers, especially because we're right there next to them, we need to know their goals. We need to help them achieve those goals. That's what's going to keep them to stay. And the half, keep it simple. Sometimes I think we try to create the miracle that's going to bring in 375 members in a week. Toastmasters gives us everything we need to be successful. Use those tools and keep it simple. That's what we really want to do.
All right. Well, that was a big idea and a half. Hey, I want to thank you, Stephen, for presenting today. It's been great. It's been great having you here today, and I want to thank the officers that make the investment to come out and learn some new information. This is important. I believe, and we all believe, that when leaders get better, everybody wins. We've got more webinars coming up, but next week is going to be a little bit different. Next week, we're not going to be broadcasting live per se. Our Toolbox Tuesday is going to be, we're going to have a crew out at a demystifying pathways presentation that is being put on. So you can go out and attend the pathways. We're going to go out and record it, and then we'll get it up on the website as well. But it won't be coming to you live next week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, and keep your eyes open for the email. It's been great having you here today, and thank you for making this investment. This has been Toolbox Tuesday. We'll see you in 2 weeks.